All right. I want to thank everyone for listening in again to KIEZ here on 106.7 FM. We are the voice of the community. Today, I got a special guest. He's been, not followed, but he's transitioned with me from other radio stations up until today's radio station, the voice of the community. I have our community leader, Minister Verbon Muhammad. How's it going today, sir?
Doing well, Brother Brian. How you getting along?
Oh man, I'm just like everyone else trying to understand this new norm was taking
Man,
place right
yes,
before our
sir.
eyes. So I mean, how are you quarantining over there?
Well, we're doing good, man. Of course, we continue with the social distancing and, uh, you know, I don't know if I put on a few pounds, but, maybe everybody have, but I think it's kind of loosening up. We're moving into phase two. But I noticed that this virus has been deadly among our own people. But other than that, man, we've maintained the family is fine, and we just been adjusting to the shelter in place.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Uh, well, I definitely want to let me introduce who y'all. Hey, I have brother Verbon Muhammad. He's been a leader in the community, not for a short period of time, but for an extended period of time. Brother Muhammad, I remember you back from the day of Greyhound.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
I mean
true.
Greyhound. Everybody is on
Yep.
165 South, no North, Greyhound.
South, actually south. It was
Was
right
it
there. Yeah, it's going south. Yeah,
okay?
165 south.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean from years ago, and you
Yep.
transitioned from there. I think you transitioned somewhere else, then came back, and now you've
Hmm.
really grown into the community that you're originally from here, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, all
My
right.
family was the Hills, if you remember Hills Barbecue on Texas Avenue. For those who are from the Newtown area, it was a mainstay in the community for several years. Yeah, Hills
Okay.
Barbecue. Hmm.
And I know you're also the voice of the Wasman football for a period of time, also.
That's correct. We did some good things. Me and T. Lake Collins and also Nick Harrison got in there a little while. Yeah, that was on Friday nights. So looking forward to that. I don't know how it's going to look coming up this season, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, we'll see.
yeah. You're exactly right. And you
Mhm.
also been a community activist in the community. And I need you
Yeah,
to help me out on this point. What's the gentleman name in the city of Monroe that got slain right down on South Six,
yeah. South Eight,
South Eight?
William Mark Henderson.
Yeah, yeah. You were
Yeah,
very
William.
active in that also.
Yeah, that fellow was shot with 29 bullets, 29 shots, 17 actually hit the gentleman. I remember viewing his body at Hester's funeral home. He had 17 holes, and they said it was very difficult to even embalm that gentleman. So a lot came out of that, kind of similar to what's going on with George Floyd, but nothing happened to those officers, and it created a big uproar in the community. And that's probably one of the biggest recent, there's been a lot of murders in Monroe, but that one stood out, will stand out, continue to stand out over years
Yeah,
to come.
exactly.
Yes,
Yeah, I
sir.
do remember that clearly. And as you said, nothing positive came from as far as holding uh, officers accountable for those actions. But I know
Right.
you were there on the front line also. And then through your works in the community, you evolved to the school board,
I
trying to
did.
make the community better for our children. And
That's correct.
how long were you on the school board?
I was on the school board for a term, which was 4 years. We were able to uh, do some positive things on the school board. Of course, the $58 million bond that you see we passed that when I was on the school board, and the schools, the Martin Luther King Jr. School that's going up now, and some of the projects that you see, the Wasserman Field House, uh, all that the turf that was put down at all of the three high schools, all that came up on our leadership when we was on the school board, when we passed that bond, $58 million. So we were able to get that passed, and some of the benefits, the addition to Minnie Ruffin, the addition to Lexington Elementary, uh, we saw all of those take place on our leadership.
Okay, okay, and that's what I was saying. Definitely a leader in the community, and you're also if I understand correctly, you're the local representative for the Nation of Islam.
That's correct. Yeah, I
Okay,
have been in that position for for the last 11 years, uh, since 2009. Served in several capacities, the captain, secretary. Right now, I'm currently Mr. Farrakhan's representative here in Monroe, Louisiana.
Okay. And you also, I mean, the more I chat with you, the more I'm starting to remember so much is going on.
Okay.
You're so active in the community with adults, but I'm just looking at the points of helping our children, the next generation, grow up and develop. Because I know at
Yes.
one time when crime got so bad, I hate to label it like this. I would say crime, but I hate to label it as black on black crime dealing with
Yeah.
young men. You reached out to the community and started offering conflict resolution classes also.
We absolutely did. We were able to partner with Rick Salisbury's group, the
Is it SAVE?
Save. No,
Right.
not Save. That's the city.
Okay.
We work with the city too, but Rick Salisbury, city,
Cities.
CIT,
That's it. Exactly.
cities.
Okay.
We were able to partner with him, and we did some conflict resolution seminars at Carroll High School and at the Civic Center. The Civic Center was a huge success. We were able to even do a back to school backpack giveaway. I think we served several thousand students. We've been on the front line trying to get our youth to curb this energy of black on black crime, so that we can at least stay ahead of this instead of being kind of reactive to when somebody shoots us, or when uh, especially when the other Caucasians or something shoot us, we really protest. But when black on black, we got to really stop that. And so conflict resolution was one of the tools that we put in place to help some of these young people channel their emotions and that pent up energy that they have.
Okay. I definitely want to thank you for being so active in the community. And now we're at a state in our community now, whether it's local, regional, or national, we see people are fed up. If that's a fair statement to say, that
Yes.
people are fed up, they become frustrated, and they start speaking out, in not only in voice, but also in actions over something that we've seen. We just explained about Mr. Henderson in the town of Monroe. Now we saw something that was national with Mr.
Mm-hmm.
George Floyd. So every small town has their own George Floyd, as you all were on the front line trying to represent and fight for justice in our community.
Right.
However, in our town, as far as I know, I'm talking about me also, we did not revolt or create riots.
Right.
What do you think the big difference is between what happened locally here versus what happened nationally with George Floyd?
Well, what's happening now with George Floyd is a powder keg that has pretty much erupted. You can go back to Alton Sterling and Baton Rouge. You can go back to the Ferguson situation. You can go back to Trayvon Martin. You can go back to Eric Garner in New York City. You can go all the way back to Rodney King. You know, this is just a culmination. People are really. But the thing that was so dramatic with the George Floyd, the murder took place on camera. It was filmed,
Yes.
and it was just so blatant, and it was so difficult, really, to watch a man's life being just, squeezed out. The situation in Monroe, uh, you know, it was taken out of. They said that we're gonna give it to a grand jury. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna turn it over to the state police. So we went through all of those steps with the case in Monroe, and all of those agencies, from the state police to district, everybody backs one another up. So
You know what? You
justice,
make a very valid point. I didn't just
mm,
realize that till you just mentioned it. Uh, at the time with Mr. Henderson, there was no camera. There was
right?
no video.
No video,
Right. And you said that the administration started to just pass by and said, we're going to pass it on to the grand jury. That's what
hmm
happened with the Ahmaud Arbery situation.
that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But because there was video there that was able
hmm
to reveal what actually took place, now we had the community had a little help in actually holding these individuals accountable.
Yes. Yep. I actually the cameras in the Monroe PD do have body cams. I just read an article where police juror Thompson
Mm-hmm.
is asking the parish to get body cams,
Correct.
and I would have to, you know, you got to push back on what the answer, the response that the parish gave. They said that they're not looking into that, or there's a funding issue, the different types. So they're not interested in body cams, obviously. West Monroe PD does have body cams, but I think all agencies need body cams of some
Right.
sort. They just referred back to that they have dash cams. Well, that's not enough. They still need the body cams, I think. So we as a community need to push uh, the sheriff of this town to look into body cams. It protects not only us, but it
Mm-hmm.
protects the officers as well.
So is it that we need to push the sheriff, or we need to push the police jurors for in order for them to propose it and pass that and make it a requirement?
If it's a funding issue, the police jury needs to find some money in the budget, and you know, and allocate funding for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a fund. If it is a funding issue, the police jury has the power to you know, to make it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Now, with so much frustration going on, we're at a state where I believe individuals are revolting, and they're making quick, irrational decisions by tearing down our own community.
right.
And the question is, do you think our community can just recover overnight?
Well, I was talking to one of the brothers in the Nation of Islam in Chicago. He lives on the south side of Chicago. Yesterday, he said, "Well, Brother Verbon, uh, all of the stores, all of the grocery stores on the south side of Chicago are pretty much boarded up and closed because of the riots, because of the looting, because of the vandalism." He also said that this is putting a strain on our community because we're not thinking that, hey, the elderly need to go to the store. The elderly need to go to Walgreens to get their medicine. The elderly need to go, you know, to the convenience stores or to the grocery stores. And so now that has become difficult. On top of the coronavirus pandemic, we already were sheltered in place. So as they loosen the restrictions, the people don't have anywhere to go, particularly on the south side of Chicago. So this is just one example of we're not thinking about we're just thinking short term. We're not thinking long term on how destructive looting and destroying our own neighborhood, the ramifications of that. So it's going to take some time for us to get back on our feet because, you know, the trucks won't get in to deliver the food, you know, and hey, as a result, we either going to have to travel further to get groceries, or we're going to have to survive the best way we can.
Yeah, because I know sometimes that I think you bring in food, bean pies to the community, and I see I think sometimes one of the brothers, they're selling fruit. I'm glad it didn't happen here, but I'm from Chicago, and I spoke to my moms also. They definitely tore up the community, tore up Stony Island. I mean, just decimated the community overnight. And I mean, she called me in a state of fear, trying to make sure I was okay. But luckily, things didn't happen. Well, we didn't have too much civil unrest here in the town of Monroe. Everything was under control. And
I just read. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just read where they recently arrested some individuals in Parkview. You know, I think they had some bricks thrown at the MPD Monroe police cars, and there was some gunshots fired. I just read today that interim police chief Reggie Brown said they brought 3 individuals under arrest, and they're looking for 2 others. So that's the only, that's kind of an isolated incident. But that's the only incident I've seen here as far as in Monroe. And even around the state, New Orleans has protested, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, even Alexandria. They're all protesting in this peaceful. So, and I just saw today that Winsboro had a protest in Bastrop. So these communities are all speaking out about that there needs to be some strong aftermath after this. We're going to have to really sit down at the table and mic out the course of action for Black, white, and other, that we all can be able to, get along and live in harmony in terms, especially when it comes to policing. Uh, we've also had a meeting that the mayor put together. We had it at the Civic Center. If you can recall, back when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came through Monroe several years ago, he was at the graduation of his granddaughter in Grambling, and he flew out of Monroe and he held a press conference, and it just sent a big whirlwind of controversy with his visit here. And the mayor, but what that did was, he didn't bring any racism to Monroe. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan didn't. The racism obviously was already here, and his visit just kind of pulled that scab back, and we saw what was there. So the mayor had a cross and diverse section of people. It was a really good meeting, but it just didn't have enough follow-up. And there was some suggestion to the mayor on the north side that it wasn't necessary. So here we are again. So maybe the message is getting across to those who may now realize and see what we were trying to accomplish with that meeting.
Now, is that the meeting? Because I know at one time you were a panelist on stage.
Yes, it was.
Time. That was the same one you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And so was there ever a follow-up to that meeting?
I'm afraid it wasn't. There was some dialogue with the panelists, mainly about we want to worship together. And we talked about some of the disparities, the differences in Monroe. Of course, this two-school system issue. Monroe is one of the only areas of the state that got two school systems. You got to wonder why, because the way it was set up, racism was at the root of it. So we have to really take a look at how we operating, because going forward, everybody say we want to get back to normal. I'm afraid it's not going to be normal, because normal is not really good for us as a people.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. You're exactly right.
So, you talking about getting back to normal. What you mean? You want to get back to normal where we still living in this Black inferiority and white superiority? Well, no, we're going to have to really sit down at the table and like you say, eat and evaluate all things.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, I guess those that are in power, they desire and would like to get back to the so-called norm because they were in power.
That's it.
But it gets to a stage, and I talked to Mike Abrams earlier. It gets to a stage where the community must understand their current condition and demand a change.
Right.
But the change only happens from within. So we have to be soldiers within our own community. Just like I know that the nation teaches and have books on how to eat to live.
Yes.
Those books are so powerful because my understanding, they're saying that some of the individuals that were in New Orleans and also in our area that has become a hotbed due to this coronavirus is due to some of the preconditioning of medical conditions due to the way that we eat. And there is an alternative to eat better. And through that eating better, we can actually become healthier. And the more healthier you are, the more wealthier you become.
That's right. Well, if you take a look at our community, of course, I live on the south side, but we are loaded down with fast food, from Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, Wendy's, all of these fast foods, they are packed every night. I pass by this, I say, man, we're not cooking anymore. We're not, we just eating fast food. And that causes the hypertension, the diabetes, the bad, poor eating habits is really causing us to Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan say, we dig our graves with our teeth. So, if you just constantly eating and especially foods that is, fried food, Yeah, all the, and of course we don't eat pork. It's not just a Muslim thing, but pork is a bad. It's really not good for you. It's run your pressure up. It causes inflammation, and those things are characteristics in friends of diabetes and high blood pressure. So
Mm-hmm.
with the coronavirus coming, your immune system is not able to fight off uh, viruses around us all. I mean, we live around viruses, but your immune system has to be strong enough to be able to fight off and ward off viruses. Of course, we are taught how to fast. We're taught, every month we fast. We just came out of Ramadan, and so these are some things that our body can. God has given us mechanism and tools to give our body a rest and give it time for your body to cleanse itself. So these are some things we have to teach our people
Yeah.
in the community. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I applaud Michelle Obama when she was first lady, and I was on the school board at the time. She was really pushing, I forgot what it was, but it was dealing with the school lunch program,
Mm-hmm.
healthier choices from fruit, from veggies, from from yogurt, and stop and take out all these sugary snacks and drinks, and that was really successful to a certain degree. And I don't know if that's still in place, but I remember she was really an advocate of better eating choices.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, the more I start focusing on our community, and I think now we're at a stage of evolving or transitioning to phase two. But
Mm-hmm.
during the initial phase, prior to phase one, only individuals that were able to actually engage in work or their daily occupation were individuals that were called essential workers.
Right,
Now, prior
right.
to the terminology essential workers, they were known as service workers.
There you
And they
go.
just sent them to work all the time. And now they have to
Mm,
continue to work without any compensation,
mm,
no health care, minimum wage jobs.
mm, mm,
So
mm.
you're right. I can see why those that are in power want to go back to the way things were, the norm, because in a
Right.
capitalistic society, they continue to flourish.
That's right. Well, the gentleman that passed with the coronavirus here in Monroe, I knew him, grew up with him, the gentleman, he was, man, Johnson. He passed, he was a guard at Richwood. And I saw his daughter was on the news talking about how he was, uh, you know, he had to work because he's essential. You got prisoners, but there was not enough measures in place. And I've seen the stories about those out at the chicken. I don't know the name of it, out in Farmerville. There was a
Right.
sister. They was interviewed saying that they're forcing us to come to work under these conditions. Well, they're trying to get that production out, and they need essential workers there. But see, little that we know, once we unify as a people, we have the power and we can demand the change that we're looking for, because some of these jobs can't get done simply without us. So
Hmm.
that's why I say it can't go back to normal. It's going to have to be some some uh, some negotiation, some coming to the table, and we're going to have to come up with something better and something new.
So, I mean, can you paint? I see you're slowly trying to paint that picture of post coronavirus, but how do we get to that stage of even having these conversations? And how do we identify the systems that need an overhaul?
Well, we got to admit that uh, we have a problem. It's just
Yes.
like if you're sick, you got to admit that you're sick. We have to just, there's a problem.
Hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
you know, we already know that if Caucasians don't want to live next to us, that's fine. I can live on the south side, you can live on the north side, or you can live West Monroe, but we just need the same services. That's what we've been crying out in our community. We want our community to look like your community.
Hmm.
If I have a Walgreens and a Walmart in my neighborhood, I don't have to come, in your neighborhood to shop. Not unless
Right.
I just want to,
Right.
but uh, we have to admit that we have a problem. As long as we keep avoiding it and keep tiptoeing around it and dancing around it, Martin Luther King said that integration he felt he later he felt that integration was a trick.
Mm-hmm.
We were integrated, and they said separate but equal. It was separate, but it was never equal, and we are to that point to this day. So we just have to admit that we have a problem.
Yeah, because if I help me, the school board is still debating or having debate or arguments over the civil rights bill from years ago, right?
Well, they've come from up under the consent decree. The past school board, which was comprised of mainly blacks, said that they did not want federal oversight in the Monroe City school system. Uh, they think they had achieved what you call unitary status.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you and I know things are not unitary, uh, but they were. I don't know if they were forced by the judge to declare itself unitary from 50 some years ago. But once it declares itself unitary, that means that all hiring practices, that all of UC educational practices don't have any federal oversight now. So you pretty much on your own. So you have to trust those who are in authority to do what's right.
Well, that becomes a challenge because we just heard that on the police juror, it made a statement on Facebook that if the loot,
Mhm.
even the president said, if they start looting, you start shooting. Now we're
Yeah,
hearing locally that a member on the school board, I'm sorry, not school board, but the police jury said that something to the effect that if they're looting, shoot them.
yeah, with a CH, shoot 'em.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
this is the same gentleman who made a disparaging remark about Muslims, if you can recall.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Clampett made a remark about Muslims, the immigrant Muslims. He said that those that work in Starbucks, when they go to the toilet, they don't use toilet paper. They use their hands. Now, I don't know how low down and disgusting of a statement that was, but that was pretty low.
Right, right.
And then he said, happy uh, serving your coffee. So he caught some backlash from that. Of course, I reached out to him as well. That's when Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Dr. Reddix was on the jury. But Mr. Clampett is no stranger to controversial comments.
Now, do you think that was intentional, or do you think that this is just some of the old archaic mindset?
It's a
And that,
mindset. It's a
yeah,
mindset. You know, he's told you he's an old redneck. He's told you, uh, and that's fine. But some of those comments have to, as an elected official, he has to. Uh, you know, his personal feelings don't need to come out because it influences so many. Uh,
but he apologized. It sounds like every time
well, look,
we get an
he called
apology,
you apologize because it's pressure and heat. That's what happened to Drew Brees. You know, Drew
yeah,
Brees and did the same thing, and you know, he apologizing, but that's how they feel,
exactly
Brian.
right,
They feel that way.
right.
You know, that ain't gonna change. They apologize, but that's how they feel, and that's their feelings. That's their sentiment, and so that's the mindset that we have to work on. Of course, you know, they say the Nation of Islam is a hate group. That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center say. But you can't look in our record and see where we've uh, did any physical damage or harm to anyone. So we just have to be careful. And I think that, you know, Drew Brees and Mr. Clampett and others, I think there was a police officer in Shreveport. He was a trainer. He made some comments. You got a mayor in Mississippi making comments. So
Yeah.
there's a whole climate of people out there, Brian, that's making these comments that under these conditions of what you see going on with the uh, with the George Floyd murder,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like it's bringing out a whole lot of you know, you talking about anarchists and I'm like, where's these people coming from? You're talking about people that's looting and so it's white supremacy groups. I mean,
Right.
really, what's really going on? You know?
Well, we definitely have to look at the leader. The more that the leader continues to speak loudly,
Yeah.
it builds that confidence.
It
and then
does.
people just start speaking freely, and it becomes a slip of the tongue. Just like
Mhm.
take the VP Biden, he had
Mm.
a slip of the tongue recently.
Right,
I
right.
don't think it was a slip of the tongue. I mean, if no one would have said anything, he would have took it as being just okay. But he called it. He was too cavalier, saying that
Yeah.
what did he say that if we don't vote for
Uh,
him, we must not be black.
must not be black. See, he's trying to appease to a base, because see, he think he's in the race and he has a shoe in with the black community because blacks are so dissatisfied with Trump. Well, that's not enough, Mr. Biden. And because you was President Obama's vice president, but he has a history as well. So if he's fortunate enough to win the White House, he gonna have a lot of work to do. You
Yeah,
know, he's gonna have a lot of work to do, and Biden's not no young man. He's almost 80.
correct.
So he's gonna have to have the stamina to try to put all this back together again. So some of the comments that he's made, he has to go back and backtrack on them. But the climate is producing all of this. Of course, we have a president in the White House that we got to remember God put him there. See, God got that man in office for a season and a reason.
Hmm.
No matter how bad it looks, uh, God has him there. He come out of nowhere. Everybody thought Hillary was going to get it. I mean, you know,
And she
she
did. She
actually
won.
won it. Yeah, she won the popular vote, but I think Trump run this electoral college,
Right, right.
so he got the White House. So we just gonna have to. What it's doing with our community, black people, it should unite us behind unity. We got to unite. Stop focusing on Trump. Trump is gonna do. He gonna do what he do, and we saw what he did. That man shot tear gas at protesters in Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
on federal ground. He had the federal troops to move some people out so he can go to a church to hold up a Bible for a photo op.
Right. The
He he
Episcopal
he,
Church.
he just want to show, he has authority and power. So, uh, but God got him though. God got him. So we just going to have to watch it and see how this play out. So November's coming. We'll see
Yeah.
if he get reelected or not.
Well, Verbon, I sure appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come to the round table and chat with us about the state of the community, because we definitely need to lean on some of our experience. And I say it again, experience leaders in our community, because we see in the event if we do not lean on our experienced leaders, we have people in place right now. If they get out of their comfort zone, their true feelings will come out. And I
Yeah.
call it's a sense of bias. It's an
Hmm.
implicit bias.
Right.
When they're under control, they can say the right things at the right time.
Right.
But
Right.
we
Right.
see what's happening locally. We see what's happening, even dealing with sports and play. And so we
Hmm.
have to really sit back and reevaluate everything that's going on. And we internally, we must get to the stage where I have to stop expecting someone to come to the table with an agenda. We
Hmm.
must come to the table with
Got to
our own
create our
agenda.
own agenda. That's it.
Yeah. So before
So,
we end, I'm gonna go ahead and give you the last couple of words for the state of our community, how we need to look at what's going on, and how we need to move forward.
well, I thank you so much, Brian, for allowing me to come on, and we pray God that you continue to be a voice for our community with it, because this is a powerful the communication so that people can get information out. I just want to leave you with this in the Black community. Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan will speak to the world July 4th, 2020, next month. Everybody's been asking where's Farrakhan on this? Well, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been warning us for 65 years, uh, all the way since the Million Man March up until now. So he'll be speaking July 4th, and he has a message to not only Black people but for everyone that will listen and heed the call. I just watched the funeral of today of George Floyd with Reverend Sharpton and others. It was I say a good funeral, but it was joyful.
Hmm.
Wasn't sad and everything. But again, man, I thank you so much for hosting me, and I look forward to coming back in the future.
All right. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
All right, bye bye.